Well, hi everybody, Father Alex here. Welcome to another episode of the Godcast. I'm the vicar of St Matthew's Church in Burnley. I'm also the host of the Godcast and the author of Our Daily Bread from Argos to the Altar Pre-Story, which is available in all good bookshops and online. So do check that out. My guest today on the Godcast is Owen Paul. Now, Owen is a gentleman who had a big hit in the 80s with a well-known song called My Favourite Waste of Time. We're going to find out a little bit about his career and what he's been doing since then. I'm sure there's a lot that's gone on. So I do hope you enjoy it. If you do, then please do perhaps subscribe to the YouTube channel or follow me on X or on Blue Sky. You'll find me there at Alex DJ Frost. But for now, enjoy this interview with Owen Paul. Well, I'm delighted to say that joining me on the Godcast this week is Owen Paul, a musician who had a huge hit in the 80s, and we'll get to that, but we'll talk about a few other things as well. Owen, it's great to get you on the Godcast. How are you?
Good morning, Alex. The Godcast. Now that's an interesting phrase, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's a catch, isn't it?
Yes, a little bit. Yeah. Can you explain that to me?
Well, I'm a priest, so
I can clearly see that.
see,
Yes.
so
Yes.
well, what happened was, I mean, this podcast is about you, but my brother said, well, we started it in the lockdown, and my brother said, oh, you should
Yes.
just call it the Godcast podcast, and I did, and yeah, and so it's kind of for people who are new to it, it's kind of if people want to talk about faith, they can. There's no pressure. It's not a heavy podcast of indoctrination. It's more about the individual, and if they want to say something then they can. So I don't know which
No, no.
category you fall into, Owen, but I'm sure we'll
Well,
find out.
you will find out. But anyway, I think your brother's idea is good. And obviously, during lockdown, everybody was sitting going, "What do we do here? We're stuck." And I remember like the first sort of couple of months. I was living in Oxford, right? And when the sort of rumours were rife about the lockdown was about to happen, I jumped on a train to get to where my studio is in Farnham with my manager Lynn, but and I thought I better get there just in case we get stuck, right? So I told my children I'm heading to Farnham. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. 18 months later. But the interesting thing is, right, like your brother's idea, is that we started to communicate in different ways. So, like your brother's idea about the Godcast podcast and whatever, I remember sitting, we were all stuck in the house, we hadn't gone out or anything, no one had, and whatever. And I was thinking to myself, now if I'm stuck and I can't do my live shows, my 80s festivals, and all my usual kind of work, I thought then maybe Toya's stuck, or Lee John from Imagination is stuck,
Mm.
or the guys from Big Country are stuck, or the guys from Simple Minds are stuck, etc., etc., etc. Right? So then I got to thinking because as I said, I landed in the place where my recording studio is. So we put together a track, which is not even a song, right? It was my favorite waste of time jam, in effect, right? So it was just the chorus part, and then I asked Toya to do a thing, Cheryl Baker from Bucks Fizz to do a thing, Carol Decker from TABOO to do a thing, the guys from Big Country, Bruce to do a thing, Simple Minds guy, Mick McNeil do a thing, blah, blah, blah. Not a single person turned me down because they were doing nothing.
Yeah.
So we ended up with this track, and it's called My Favorite Waste of Time, the Lockdown Chorus, and it's got everybody on it, including Matt Lucas. He goes, "You're mine, you're my favorite waste of time," that kind of way, and it was a brilliant thing. And like your brother, very creative. You can get something out of nothing. And what's that phrase about adversity? You get the idea.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. It's funny. It's a small world, Owen, because my brother lived in Farnham for a long time as well. I used to
Did
come
he
down
now?
there, used to come down and see him as well. Yeah.
Right.
But it's a few years ago. But yeah, I mean, it is. It's opened up. I think it's a good way to just open things up, and I've got quite a lot of followers, and people love it, and people can't wait for the next one, and they'll be looking forward to hearing you, and so it's a great way to connect. And as I said to you before we hit the record button. I love my music, and you know, I love chatting about it. So
No, I like it very much. And the thing about your job, obviously, as a priest, and your connections, obviously, because you're a music fan, I'm sure you're going to get into this at some point. What is the connection between spirituality or religious connections and how it lands on a record, on a song? And I think I can answer some of that.
well, let me put this to you. I mean, I can whiz these questions I've got over my shoulder because I can have a lovely chat with you then. But I don't know if you know the drummer Vinny Colaiuta. He was a drummer for Sting, and he was in the Frank Zappa band, the American guy.
Excuse me, I saw Frank Zappa with him playing. He is far from rubbish.
Yeah, well,
Oh
he's on
my,
the
oh
Hall of
my.
Fame, isn't he? Yeah,
Yeah. I think it was 1981, I think, in London, central London, a place called the Venue.
yeah.
And I remember, and the interesting thing about Frank Zappa, which I don't know if everyone knows this, but he got that tour together, but he didn't, all the musicians had never played with him. And he sent all the tracks to them and just said, meet me in London at the Rainbow or the Venue Theatre and be ready. And they went for it without knowing or rehearsing or anything.
Mm.
It was incredible. It was incredible. And given that I come from the opposite end of the spectrum, because my musical career was born out of punk music, which is not technical at all. It's just make a racket and make a good racket. And that's what you do. And, you know, you still have the force, but there's no technicality. It came off the back of the 70s when everything was virtuoso and you got to play your instrument really well and all that. Whereas the punk idea was anyone can make a good racket. And if you make a bad racket, you're out. But if you make a good racket, you're in.
Yeah.
So when I went sort of right just after the height of punk to see Frank Zappa, I don't know why I went. And then I saw these guys and I heard the tale about how they all got sent all the tracks, but they'd never met. And then they showed up on the night and played it straight off the bat. It was like, hang on, something's going on here. Something is going on outside of us. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
It's really interesting because I said to him, what is it about music? Simple question, really. What is it about music that connects to us in a way that maybe other things can't? But and Vinny described it as a heavenly language, which I'd never heard of it referred to it in that way. And then
Right.
I went away and thought about that a bit, Owen. You know, I thought about my own journey as a priest and uh, a band that I'm really into. I mean, I know I'm a priest, but I've got tattoos on my arms of Depeche Mode tattoos.
A
Who
priest with tattoos. Wow.
There you go. How about that, eh?
Yeah.
And yeah, and Depeche Mode sung about spiritual matters, about death and religion, and it hooked me. And I genuinely don't think I would be a priest if it wasn't for that form of music. So
That's an incredible thing. I mean, and I was very, very young. I remember when I was like a teenager and I heard Heroes by David Bowie, right? It's another example of a racket. That record is a proper racket. It's Robert Fripp making a racket, Bowie making a racket, all the guys in the band making a racket, Brian Eno making a racket, blah, blah. But it has a unified something in it, and it conveys a something in it. And I remember hearing it, and like, even when I talk now, I've got goosebumps just even
mm,
saying it, right? So when I started to make records and do songs and things, I was always in pursuit of that. That I felt that, I could, obviously any singer songwriter guy or muso or whatever, I can put a few chords together and sing a song about anything, right? But I was always in pursuit of, can I make a few chords and a few lyrics that mean something? And even if the listener thinks it's about something else, that's fine. But I know what it means to me.
mm,
So when I'm conveying it, I'm conveying what it means to me. But I won't do it unless it really does. I won't, I was often in the middle of the 80s during my big success, asked to do this song and that song and this song, and blah, blah, could I go on this TV show and that, blah, blah. And I said I wouldn't do it unless it meant something to me. I wouldn't. I'm not singing that. They'd say, I'd say, that's a great song, by the way, great tune. I said, but it doesn't relate to me. I'm not doing it. And my manager used to be like, oh, God's sake, on. You've got such an attitude problem. My manager was a guy called Peter Powell, right?
Well, the DJ Peter Powell.
Correct, from Radio 1. And he
Yeah.
did Top of the Pops and all that. He was my manager. He thought I was so difficult. And I just thought I had principles. There's a clash.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I suppose. What is hit worthy or what is important music. And what
Yeah,
you
but
said there about what you said
I
there,
did.
Owen, about ambiguity as well.
Yeah,
I love ambiguity in songwriting because it, like you just said, you know, you can write something that means something to you, but it can mean
yeah.
something completely different to somebody else, and that's often the case.
I remember, I think I first learned this from a David Bowie interview when somebody said to him, you know, what is life on Mars about? And he went, I don't care. He said, I know what I think that's about, but I don't want to say because I want the listener to make up what their own mind, what that
Mm.
is. And then they go from there. So if I say that puts it into a restricted area and a small box, he says, I want to leave it in a wider box. And the opposite end of the scale, some like 20, 30 years later, I'm working on the X Factor as a kind of mentor consultant, right? And so I'd see the auditionees before they got filmed and were sent to Simon, Sharon, and right. I'd see them first, and the amount of times I said to them, "Okay, that sounded brilliant, by the way. You're a great singer." I said the notes and the tuning was fantastic. I said, "But what is the song about?" They all went, "Don't know." So I said, "Okay, let me give you a little tip." I said, "So take this lyric sheet, go back out the room. You decide, forget what the writer thinks, but you decide what this is about, then come back and sing it to me again. And then you tell me the story about what you think this is about and
Mm.
convey that to me." The difference was monumental. Monumental.
Mm.
And I always think the sort of, you say, like, you're a gifted football player or you're a gifted this or you're a gifted artist or whatever. And then you see there's some kind of spirituality and something going on. The only singular thing, because I can learn my trade. I could play guitar for hours and hours and hours to get it right. I could play a piano from nothing and get it right. I could learn the drums if I had to, which I had, so I did, and whatever. But songs come in a different way. I don't go, okay, I need a new track for my new album. I think I better get the guitar out and play a few chords and see what happens. And I've never done that in my life. Never. Ever. Phil Collins does that for 6 hours a day.
Mm.
Gary Barlow does that for hours upon hour. I have never done that. I just meander through my life, my career, whatever. And then suddenly in my head, I hear a whole song. Every word, every chord, everything, right? Now that, uh, whether you call that divine intervention or not,
Yeah.
I don't know. But I do not sit and go, okay, oh, I like that D chord or that G chord. I could make a song like that. I've never done that.
Mm.
I just wait and I go, well, hang on, I've got a great idea. I can hear the whole song. And then I speak to Lynn, who's my manager, who's a brilliant recording artist in her own right and a technical engineer and all that. And I go, right. And I send her a thing on the phone and I go, it goes like this. Fly with me, dig a ding bong, bing bong, ding bong, ding ding bong. And then I leave it with her. I used to be like complete manic fascist and I had to play every note. Now I'm not like that. Now I just go, this is what I've got. This is what I heard. And then my challenge becomes, which is a kind of weird reversal of the songwriting process. My challenge becomes, how can I learn or get others to learn to play what I heard in my head? That's the real challenge.
Mm.
So we end up doing a recording session or whatever. And I go, this sounds lovely. I said, but that's actually not what I heard. So can we do it again? And then I have to look into it in like tiny minuscule level to try and figure out what it is. And then I go, hang on, that's it. That's the bit. I heard that. And then I go, and that's the word. That's not that's the other word. That's not the word. That's the word. Now, where is that coming from?
It's
Where is that coming from?
well, yeah, well, you might not be surprised for me to say, oh, and I think that's a gift that you've got, isn't it? And people might
It's
just,
the
you
it's
know,
the only singular thing that I would nearly confess to thinking that that just might be a gift.
yeah,
All the other stuff you can learn. All the other stuff is just a job. You do the thing, you do the videos, you do the telly, you do the interviews, you do the posters, you tour around the world. It's lovely life and all that. That can all be learned. The origination of a song comes from somewhere else.
yeah,
And I don't know what that is. And as I said, is it divine intervention? But there is some kind of gifts going on there.
I think so. It's a
I
great insight
definitely think
into
it.
it's great insight into the creative process as well, I think, Owen.
Yeah,
Um,
and then and the opposite end of the scale. Sorry to interrupt again, Alex. I talk too much, as you
all
can
right, it's great. It's
as you
fascinating stuff.
as you learn. The other interesting thing is that when you're working with somebody like Len, my manager, who does the engineering and the recording and the mixing, she makes the videos and the promos and the websites and all the stuff. But she'll go, "This sounds amazing." I'm like, "What?" And it's something's niggling me, right? And I'll go, "Well, yeah." She go, "No, but that's a great thing." Blah, blah, blah. And I go, "Yeah," but she's now got used to me over some years, and she now goes, she in her own mind now she's thinking, well, because she's a manager of many acts, not just me. She manages Jason Manford and other comedians and all sorts of things, right? So she's used to the artistic vent of weird, where they might appear difficult, but they're just trying to get their thing right. So now she allows me to go, well, if he's not happy with that, the release date, which is supposed to be the 29th of November, we'll leave that. We're not doing that until he figures out what that problem is and sorts that out. And that's his job. And then when we get that done, then we'll do it. Whereas before, back in the old days, Sony Music that I was signed to, or Warner Brothers, or whoever, all those big record labels, they just say that's the record date and it's coming out. You better not be late. Now in the modern world, I could record a song right now after we finish talking, and I could have it out by midnight.
Hmm.
It's an incredible difference.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the restrictions of having to finish something on time did have its advantages, because within recording technology now, I could record one song and it'll last 17 years trying to fix it, and I'd never stop. So the restrictions are good as well, because it means you have to go, okay, that's me done on that. I'll move on, and I'll whatever I'm after, I'll try and catch it on the next track. You know?
Owen, you touched on record labels. Tell us about your experience of relationships with record labels. I've had some. I had the guys on one of the guys on from a band who are from this part of the world, the Milltown Brothers,
Right.
who had a quite a successful first album. The second album didn't work out. Label drops them. Spoke with Rick Witter from Shed 7 about his difficulties with record labels. What's your experience? You touched on it a little bit there, but there's the need to make money, isn't there, against your desire, I guess, to be a creative artist. Just share a bit of
Well,
that if you would.
well, you just sort of hit the nail on the head by your own question right at the end of it. I had no regard. I didn't want to be a pop star or make money or anything. I was just trying to create a song in my own living room, and I wouldn't care if no one heard it, right? And then suddenly, when you get older, you think, well, if I'm going to do this for a living, I have to get a return so I can record another time. So you have to play the game a little bit. And obviously, if you don't have sales, you can't record another album. That's one of the problems with Spotify and those things. There's no return. I can get 10 million streams and make like 4 grand. But that thing that they're streaming costs me 25 grand. So there's a problem there, right? But at the same time, it's very complex, all this. But at the same time, in my record company experience with Sony signed me as a rock act. That's what happened, right? They saw me somewhere on telly doing a thing as the sort of unsigned act thing on BBC Two, and then they came to a show at the Marquee in London in Wardour Street, and I was very, very rocky. I was not a pop act at all, right? So they signed me full contract, 8 albums, usual deal, blah blah, and they advanced me money to make the records and all that. Lovely. Anyway, after my first couple of records, which were, let's say, critically acclaimed, but
Yeah.
didn't get many sales, right? But I got a nomination for a Brit as Best New Act with 2 records that no one even knows, right? Anyway, my third record I made on a whim, just a random whim idea, and it happened to be Favourite Waste of Time, which was the complete opposite to what I was. It was very poppy, very summery, very shiny. I happened to look the part. I was poster boy. I was pretty boy. Blah. It then went global. Sales of mega millions all over the world. Blah. And then the record company go, okay, I want 15 more of them. And I'm like, no, 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 hang on, hang on. You signed me as a rock act, yeah? They're like, no, we want 15 more of them, or we won't fund your videos, or your promotion, or your tours. I was like, excuse me? Is that for real? They're like, yep, that's how it's going to work here. I was like, wow. I thought, I've just made the biggest mistake of my career. Because I wasn't a pop guy, and I'm not a pop guy. I'm a rock country folk guy. That's what I am. I just write folk songs and then I turn them into rock songs or whatever, right? I've even done dance tracks, which in essence are just like 3 or 4 chord tricks, folk music, but it turns out to be a do 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 do, because that's just the way you treat them. The actual essence of the song is still a folk rock shape. And then they wanted more of that, more of that, more of that. And then it became, I mean, I'm sure, as you said, you've done it in interviews with lots of people. And then you get at loggerheads. And I won't play ball with that. They won't play ball with me. Then they put an injunction on me. They go, where's the new album? I go, I don't have a new album. I was lying. And I said, I've got writer's block. So then they send me around the world, funded by them, but I'm going to pay, so at my cost, but they front the money. I then go to the Bahamas and I go wherever, blah. And I'm going, oh, I still haven't got any new songs. Blah. In essence, I just wanted out of the deal. If you're not going to give me promotion for the tracks, I remember my boss, a famous guy called Muff Wormwood, right? He was the boss at Sony Music. This guy's been around. He was in his brother Steve Winwood, right? And they did massive records with Traffic and all sorts of things, and whatever. So he's been around. But I remember him coming into the studio when we were doing the follow up to Favourite Waste of Time and whatever, and he said, "Oh, and it's good, but can you not tell me the guitars are too loud? It's too aggressive." And I went, "What?" I said, "You heard the demo of this. This is exactly what it is." And he went, "No." He said, "You're a pop star now. You're not a rock star." I was like, "Well, I'm sorry, mate. I can't perform and play as your puppet as a rock star." I said, "Why don't you get Bros to do whatever that is? Because they'll do anything." We both knew them. We were on the same label, right? So I wasn't being disparaging. I knew them. And I said, "They'll do whatever you want." I said, "And they'll wear whatever jacket you want." I said, "But I'm not doing that." I said, "You knew that when you signed me." I said, "So don't make me do it." So anyway, went record for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years under my own name, but it didn't stop me. I became a behind the scenes guy using my real name, which is Owen McGee. And I worked with Mike and the Mechanics, and I toured, and I opened the theatre, and I became a producer and arranger and whatever. So it didn't stop. But I just went, you know what? I'm not having that. I'm not doing it. Because I did, and it's funny because everyone around me thought, "Oh, and you're on the ticket to mega money here and mega stardom. Why don't you just play along and put on the gold lammy suit and do what they say?" I said, "Well, you know what? That sounds like a brilliant idea." I said, "And the adult in me who wants to feed my children for the rest of their days, I want to do that." I said, "But I'm going to be caught out because I'm not that." I said, "And in my heart, I am not that." I said, and it's because I'm going to be caught out and found out is why I'm not doing it. And therein was the end of the story.
So does that leave you? How does that leave you now? Then, knowing all these years later, does that leave you with a touch of bitterness, or or are you happy how it turned out? Any regrets that you didn't conform to what they wanted? I mean, massive integrity, and I'm like going, well, absolutely fabulous. But do you regret what you might have got?
Well, first things first, Alex, I don't believe in the word regret. I made choices at the time based on what I knew at the time to the best of my ability at the time. I tried to be nice at the time. I tried to give it all I've got at the time, which is what my mum taught me. Give it all you got. Have manners. Give it all you got. Do your best. That's my mum. That's what she taught us. And I did that. So I have no regrets. No, none whatsoever.
What about your relationship with that song then? Is it you know do you it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because in many ways it was something you weren't, but it was something that made you what you was. If that makes sense. What?
Well, I think you're right. I'm trying not to get into too big words, but it's like a dichotomy and a paradox,
Yeah.
all swimming around at the same time. Much that you say it was me, but not me. Actually, in reality, I am a whimsical guy. I don't understand why I can't be in a rock band and then make a dance track. Why not? Why can't you? Why do you have to be, I'm a prog rock guy, so I'll never make a pop record or Eurovision. I want to do all of that and have a go. So it wasn't that unusual to me. However, it did damage my career massively and I didn't get any support. So I bailed out. So for about, and I'm not joking, it must be something like 20 years, I didn't sing the song. And often in the street, people go, are you that Owen Paul guy who, on the beach singing Favorite Waste of Time? I went, nah, he's much taller than me. It's not that. That wasn't me. He's a tall guy. Whatever. And I would virtually deny that that was me, right? And then some 20 years later, I then suddenly had you'll like this word because it's one of your guys' words, epiphany. And I was doing a thing for BBC Watchdog, the TV show,
Yeah, yeah.
and I was doing a thing for the Rogue Traders where they do undercover filming, try and stop criminals doing bad things. Right? So I got a phone call from the BBC saying, Matt Allwright, the presenter, would like you to come. We've been filming this bad company that are selling cameras and household security stuff to pensioners and fleecing them of their money, and the cameras are not even switched on. That kind of thing, right? So he said, Matt Allwright wants you to come in when we go and, do the, reveal, and they jump in with a camera crew and go, woohoo! And they want you to go, you're man, you're my favorite waste of time. Because on film, the company boss kept saying to these pensioners when they wouldn't sign on the dotted line of their thousands of pounds, they wouldn't do it. He kept saying, stop wasting my time, stop wasting my beep time. So that's where the idea came from, right? This story is long, but it gets to the point in the end. So I did do it, right? And it was on telly, and I watched BBC One goes out on a Wednesday night, massive show. Even though there's multi channels now,
Mm.
BBC One and ITV are still king in our country, right? Biggest viewing figures, 4.5, 6 million mental figures, right? For a TV show on a Wednesday. So my phone went off the scale the next morning, right? And it was a mixture of some friends I haven't seen for a billion years going, oh my God, was that you? Yes. Did you really do that? Yes. But the interesting fact is I'm going to try to go all the way meander around the road to get to the point. The interesting thing is, one, you forget that there's that many people watching. Two, bookers, festival event organizers watch the telly and most of the calls I got were, can you do Rewind?
Mm.
Can you do Let's Rock the 80s? Come and do the thing. It was like they suddenly went, hang on a minute, Owen Paul's not dead. So anyway, to get to the punchline, I then agreed to do some of these shows and the big festivals with Nick Kershaw, Nick Hayward, Howard Jones, Paul Young, Tony Hadley, Lamal, Bananarama, Martin Fry from ABC, all lovely people, right? Claire from Altered Images that I've known since I was young. All of these guys, we all get back together, Toya, blah, and we do these festivals, whatever. So obviously, because of the nature of my big famous song, the first line is everything, right? There's no intro, there's no bongy ding and all that. There's none of that. It's just like, back your man, right? So anyway, now I'm standing in front of 25,000 people every night, right? And I just sing that one line, and I virtually didn't sing the rest of the song. The punters did, the crowd did.
Yeah.
And it suddenly occurred to me, after all that time of, not admitting to being on Paul or kind of, want to move it to the side because it got in the way, it suddenly occurred to me that I thought, you know what? I'd been a little bit disrespectful to people's memories and their life. And I was part of their life. And now they come to these 80s weekenders at Butlins or like Rewind Festival or Let's Rock Festival. Google all them. They exist. They're massive and they're great. They come to these things at the end of their week where they've been trying to pay their mortgage. They've got 2 children that are running up the stairs going mad. And they have their break and they want Owen Paul to sing that song. That's what they want.
Yeah.
They want to forget everything, all their rubbish, and go, remember this? Woohoo! And I suddenly went on, you know what? Get over yourself. Get over yourself. Give it to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
You've got to
and
do
that's
it,
what I
haven't you?
and that's what I do.
Yeah. It is it's extraordinary. I was just yet last night. I was I've got young adult kids, and I was like, I was just road testing it and saying, do you know this? And they all know it. It's
Yeah.
it
It
is
was also it was also featured in the reason your kids probably know it. It was featured in a Kellogg's advert for Cocoa Pops or Cocoa something,
yeah.
one of them, right? And I remember my niece Jillian. This is this is long after I don't care about the track at all until I see the royalty check. so she called me up and went, I swear to God, you were just in an advert on Channel 4 there. And I was like, was I? She went, yeah. He said, I swear it was you. He said it was your song, but I swear that was also your voice. I was like, well, they never asked me. Anyway, it turned out, obviously, because Sony and my publisher, EMI, they actually control the rights. They gave them the rights to use it, right? So I was like, amazing. So it turns out, so the advert was Coco Rocks, I think. You can get it online. It's on YouTube now. And for about 6 months, it was played every day, twice, 3, 4 times a day for ages, right? Because what you forget, you got when it gets played on ITV1, it gets played on ITV plus one
Mm.
or ITV2 plus one, and then it gets played on Channel 5 plus one every day for months on end. And then the check was like, you are kidding me.
Thank you very much.
And that's why your children know the track.
And what about? I mean, this half hour was absolutely flown by, Owen. I love talking about music. What about now, where you are now in time? You're still doing it, aren't you? I mean, and because you're
Yeah,
not kind of front and center on top of the pops, I think
yeah.
sometimes people think these people, where have they gone? But you're still,
No, I think
uh,
that's an interesting point, Alex, right? Where have they gone and did they just disappear off the cliff? And I think that's fascinating. And then a, a friend that I've known for millions of years from Radio 1, a guy called Mike Reed, who did Top of the Pops and
yeah,
Radio 1 DJ and the road shows and all that. He came up with this idea of a thing called the Heritage Chart,
yeah,
right?
I'm familiar with that.
Okay, so the basic premise is that this is not old songs. This is new songs from what you call old acts. Right? So it's people from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s who suddenly didn't, like me, I didn't suddenly get to 1989 and become rubbish at 1990. All that happened was the mainstream media move on and they don't want to play you anymore. So you're not on Radio 1 or Radio 2, that's gone. And then you're not on this, you're not on the telly. The Sun don't want to know. They want to move on to Pulp and Oasis, and so you don't have an outlet, right? And Mike Reed's thing is a brilliant thing, and it's our guys, me, people I've mentioned before, Paul Young, Tony Hadley, Gary Kemp from Spandau Ballet, even Steve Norman from Spandau Ballet. He's got a separate record with Carol Decker from TABOO and all that. It's their new stuff. Nick Kershaw's new stuff. And it's filled full of acts from multitude of decades, but it's their new stuff. And then people get to vote on it weekly. And it turns out quite a lot of people are interested in this. And over the last few years, there's something like 80 to 100 different countries vote on this weekly. And the numbers are in the multi-thousands. So I bring out a new track that would have been ignored by mainstream and you'd not even know it was there. All over the world are going, who is Owen Paul? They don't even know Favourite Waste of Time, but they like the new track. Now that is very good news for me.
Mm-hmm.
That is very good. That is good news.
Yeah. What about making a living, Owen? I mean, because you know, I had John Ilsley from Dire Straits on, and he was so furious really with how badly new artists, how difficult it is for them to make a living. You know, it's like the only real way for them to make a living is to get on the road and do shows. What's your kind of relationship to the music? Are you in it for you know, is the money important, or is it the craft and the, you know, the artistry of what you are?
I think I mentioned it earlier. There are two things involved going on here. Even if I never play a song to anyone, I'm still going to write them. That's who I am. But I don't need anyone to hear them. However, if I want to do it and record it properly, then I have to get some kind of return so that I can do it again and make it a living, I suppose, right? And obviously with streaming, Spotify, iTunes, whatever you want, or any whatever version you do, I have no critique about an audience thinking I just press a button and I don't pay for that. I have no problem with that. What I have a problem with is iTunes or Spotify. They don't pay the acts who wrote it and created content, which is a word I hate, but it's turned out to be the truth. Facebook is filled full of content that they didn't make. That is people making content. Twitter's the same. They're in Twitter or X, well done, Elon, and Facebook and similar type TikTok trade on our content. And it's unsustainable if a band, especially if they can't get a return or a few £100 for what they just created, to then do another one. Mm-hmm. That's unsustainable. And like you said, the only way I make most of my money now is doing big festivals, because a mixture of the fact that I'm known from the 80s and the songs are killer and I can do a 20-minute set or 30-minute set at a festival and everyone goes home happy. That'll get me quite a substantial amount of money, right? And then I'll do it sometimes even up to 20, 30 times a year, that kind of event, all over Europe, going into America, whatever. The return from records and sales, downloads, Spotify is zero. However, my manager Lynn is the queen of this. Right? If you figure by making a new track, right, that shows that you're active, you're not just last week's news, you still exist as an artist and stuff, that moves on Facebook, on Twitter, on your own pages and whatever. You'll go, like right today, actually, I've got a new record out. I haven't even mentioned, but I do, right? And that will then travel all around the world. The guy, you know that guy that I'd never heard of? Not Favourite Waste of Time, I didn't even know that. The guy I heard on that radio station that's now on the chart and blah, blah, blah. He's got a new track. Oh, I quite like that. And then suddenly I'm getting asked, could you give me that for a movie or something? Income could come from there. Or an advert could come from there. or Stranger Things, if they wanted to ask me kindly, I'd do it. You know, get the idea. That's where the income is, that the income stream. But festivals and live shows is the only return. But there, the reason, I mean, I remember for years thinking, God's sake, Madonna, 300 quid for a ticket. What's that? What? And then I realised it's because she's making nothing from records.
Mm.
That's what's going on. So the customer is the ones that are getting shafted.
Yeah.
Because she has to do that so she can make her next album and carry on.
Yeah.
There's no other way around it. Because you just downloaded Madonna 55 million times and she made £1,000.
Yeah.
And that cannot be right.
No.
It just cannot be right.
No.
It's unsustainable.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And
Oh, I'll tell you what else I hate, right? Well, we're on the. Actually, my mum said I should never hate, and I agree with that. But I tell you another thing I dislike in this, right, is open mic nights. Right? Now, a lot of people go, new acts, Ed Sheeran, for example, came through open mic nights. He played them all around the country until he was spotted and somebody went, oh, you're good. Nah. But an open mic night, open mic night, in essence, is a bunch of guys like me going on stage, entertaining an audience in a pub or a restaurant for free, keeping the customers there. Well, the people who are serving their food are not doing it for free. I don't think if you ask the chef, come round my house and make a 12-course meal for all my friends, and we might recommend you, I don't think he'd come.
no.
But open mic artists do that. And I think they shoot themselves in the foot. They should be going, you know what? Get an open mic union,
Yeah.
right? And we all get together and we vote on this and we go, see, next Friday, none of us are going. None of us. And then they'll suddenly successful, they'll suddenly decide to give you 50 quid in a pack at Christmas.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen. It needs to happen.
Oh,
I really despise open mic nights.
yeah.
Despise it.
It's been great chatting. I think it's been a real insight for people who like me love music about, the realities, but
Yes.
also some of the highs and the lows of music.
Sorry to end up in such a depressing subject.
Well, no. Well, let's finish on a high. Tell us about this new song that's out.
It's a brand new track called Fly With Me. It's a kind of bittersweet. It's not a Christmas song, but it's going to land at Christmas because it has heartfelt things about humans and loneliness and positivity and togetherness. And it's on all platforms, as the advert says. And I don't get paid a penny for any of them, but please enjoy it. That's all I
Yeah.
want.
Well, I'm gonna check it out straight away.
Thank you.
Owen, thanks for coming on. I've really loved chatting to you,
My pleasure, Alex.
and all the best for the future. And thanks for sharing your stories with us on the Godcast. Thank you.
You're very kind, sir.
That's great.